facilitating, others making a very, others making a successful Aliyah.
I started the recording.
Going to be speaking to us about Aliyah at this point. Everyone, let's close the laptops at this point. Close, all laptops are closed. Benny, close the laptops right now. If you want to talk about your grades, we'll talk about it afterwards. Let's get rocking, right? Let's get rocking and rolling. Let's hear from our alumnus, Ezra Gilbert. Let's give it up for Ezra Gilbert. And let's listen completely. Let's go launch right away. He's got a lot to say. Thank you so much, Ezra.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you to Torah Academy and to Rabbi Jachter for this opportunity. It's my pleasure to talk to you guys. Just so you know, I'm not a rav. I'm a regular guy. This beard is just a fashion statement. So to start out, I want to go through some sources with you about Aliyah. We're not going to dig deep into them, but it's just to kind of cover the basics. And I strongly recommend you guys look into them more, talk about them with your friends, your family, your rabbi. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to go through this pretty quick because I want to get to some of the other stuff later on. So according to the Torah, what's the first thing Hashem ever said to a Jew? Of course, Vayomer Hashem el Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha mimolodetecha mibet avicha el ha'aretz asher areka. Hashem tells Abraham, make Aliyah, go to Israel. What is Aliyah? Start with the basics, literally an ascent, like Aliyah l'regel, when you would go up to Jerusalem to the Beit HaMikdash on Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And it could be a physical ascent and is often spiritual. So why do people make Aliyah? We'll talk about a whole bunch of reasons, but just to start off, for some people it's a religious imperative. For others, it strengthens their Jewish identity. For others, it's an expression of Zionism. And for most, it's a combination in a way to live a Jewish life out loud in the public. So is Aliyah a mitzvah? That's a big question. So in Sefer Bamidbar, it says, "V'harashtem et haaretz ve'yishavtem ba, ki lechem natati et haaretz lareshet ota." So the Ramban says, "Nitztavenu lareshet haaretz asher natan ha'el yitbarach v'yitalel avotenu, v'lo nazva biyad zulatenu min ha'omot o lishmama." We were commanded to inherit the land, as was promised to our forefathers, and we may not leave it desolate in the hands of other nations. So according to the Ramban, this is a positive commandment for all generations that obligates every individual, even during the time of exile. And Ramban, we'll see, has a slightly different take on it according to the text, but he also, in his sources, says, Le'olam yadur adam be'eretz Yisrael afilu be'ir sheruba goyim. An individual should always live in the land of Israel, even if it's a city where the majority are non-Jewish, and he should not leave. Ve'al yadur b'chutz la'aretz ve'afilu be'ir sheruba Yisrael. And that's preferable to living in chutz la'aretz, even if you're in a city where everybody is Jewish. So better to live in Israel with the goyim than to live outside of Israel with fellow Jews. Because everyone who leaves Israel for chutz la'aretz, it's as if they're worshiping idols. And like I said, there's quite a few takes on the Ramban versus the Rambam. So the Ramban counts Yeshiva Aretz, settling the land, as part of Taryag Mitzvot. But the Rambam specifically does not include it in his lists, and there are many opinions why he didn't list it. Some say he believed it applies only during the days of Moshe Rabbeinu and Yoshua and David and the Beit HaMikdash, and not during exile. Some say that he believed it applies, but only in a derabanan way, so not part of the Taryag Deoraita. And others like Rav Kook and Rav Teichtel claim that the Rambam also considers it a mitzvah, but because it's so general, klalit, in that it also contains other mitzvot, and is also maybe dependent on other mitzvot, that he didn't list any mitzvot that fell into that category that were so general. In any event, what's clear from the Torah, from the Psukim, is that it's a divine will, that the nation of Israel should live in the land of Israel. And I'll mention Rav Moshe Feinstein held that it's a mitzvah kiyumit, as opposed to one that's chiyuvit, meaning you're not obligated to fulfill it, If you don't, you're not punished, but if you do, you're rewarded for doing so. So is Aliyah an important mitzvah? We see in the Tosefta and in the Sifri, מלמד שישיבת ארץ ישראל שקולה כנגד כל מצוות שבתורה, וירשת וישבת בה ושמרת לעשות, ישיבת ארץ ישראל שקולה כנגד כל המצוות. So both of these sources claim that the mitzvah of Yeshuva Aretz, or living in Israel, is equal to all of the other mitzvot in the Torah. More on how important it is. So where does it say that refusal to make Aliyah is grounds for divorce? For someone not familiar, it sounds crazy. But if we look at Mishnah Masechet Ketubot, Hakol ma'alin le'eretz Yisrael ve'en hakol motzi'in. Everyone may compel their spouse to go up to the land of Israel, but none may compel their spouse to leave. Hakol ma'alin Yerushalayim ve'en hakol motzi'in. Similarly for Yerushalayim, echad anashim ve'echad anashim ve'echad avadim. The same is true for both men, women, and slaves. And the Gemara in Ketuvot goes on, Tanu Rabbanan, Hu abal omer la'alot le'eretz Yisrael, vehi ishto omeret shelo la'alot, kofin ota la'alot. If a husband wants to make Aliyah to Israel and his wife does not, then he's allowed to persuade her or to cause her to make Aliyah. And if she doesn't want to, he can leave without even giving a get. And obviously, Rabbi Jachter is an expert on all these topics, and we should never know from such things. But this emphasizes the importance of the mitzvah. It's very serious, and there are people that have actually done this. So where does it say that doing mitzvot outside of Israel is only for practice? So we will not forget. In the Sifri on Parshat Ekev, אף על פי שאני מגלה אתכם מן הארץ לחוץ לארץ, הווה מצוינים במצוות, שכשתחזרו לא יהיו עליכם חדשים. So it's basically a medrash where Hashem is saying, even though I'm exiling you from the land of Israel, the commandments should be like landmarks for you or reminders for you, so that when you come back, doing the commandments won't be something new. They'll be fresh in your mind. You'll know how to do it. He gives a mashal of a king who was angry at his wife and sent her to his father's home. But he said to her, so continue to wear your royal jewelry, so that when you return to the king's house, they won't be foreign or strange for you. So he's basically saying Hashem said the same to Bnei Israel. So there's some disagreement among the commentaries which mitzvot specifically the Sifri is referring to, that their essence is really to perform them in Israel. But many commentaries believe it pertains to all mitzvot, that really they're all meant to be practiced in Israel. And others say it's a different category. In any event, they should, of course, be practiced according to, as you all know, but the idea is that the main divine intent is that they should be done in the land. Where does it say that whoever lives outside of Israel is godless and whoever lives inside of Israel is not? In Gemara Ketubot, Tanu Rabbanan, Leolam Yodor Adam be'Eretz Yisrael, afilo be'ir shuba ovdei kochavim, ve'al Yodor b'chutz la'aretz, afilo be'ir shuba Yisrael. The Rabbanan learn that an individual should always live in Israel, even in a city where the majority are idolaters, and he should not live outside of Israel, even in a city where the majority are Jewish. Shekol adar be'eretz Yisrael domeh kemi sheyesh lo Eloha, ve'kol adar b'chutz la'aretz domeh kemi she'en lo Eloha. Everyone who lives in Israel, it's as if he has a God, and everyone who lives outside of Israel, it's as if he doesn't. That's what the pasuk says, to give them the land of Canaan, to be for them a God. So the Gemara says, whoever is living in Chutz La'aretz, it's as if he's worshipping idols. The Ramban once gave a drasha for Rosh Hashanah, and he says specifically that these words of the Gemara are what convinced him to leave his family at an old age and take a dangerous trip and much personal risk in order to make Aliyah to Israel. What other mitzvot does Aliyah enable? So there are national mitzvot, like appointing a king, building the Beit HaMikdash, all of the mitzvot that have to do with the Mikdash, destroying Amalek, establishing a Sanhedrin, declaring leap years, all the different gifts for the poor, leket, shichecha, peah, the gifts for the Kohanim and Leviim, Bikurim, Hafrashat Chala, Trumot U'Ma'asrot. Some of these, like Hafrashat Chala, are practiced outside of Israel, but again, the essence is that they should be performed in Israel. Kedushat Haaretz, Zraim, Chadash, Orla, Netarevai, and of course, Shemitah is practiced until today, and Yovel, and some of the other national mitzvot we hope are coming soon, Bezrat Hashem. Question, we really could have done a kahoot, but we didn't have time. So what are the only two mitzvot you fulfill with your entire body just by being somewhere? So the first one is Yeshuv Haaretz, and the second is Leishev Basukah, when you're in the Sukkah. Both of them you fulfill every second that you're in that space. Kind of like the hokey pokey. You put your whole self in and you start getting all those mitzvahs. So what are some of the rewards for living in Israel? So in the Gemara Ketubot, it says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Kol Adar Be'eretz Yisrael, Sharui Belo Avon. Whoever lives in Israel is forgiven from their transgressions. It's as if they haven't sinned. Amar Rav Anan, Kol HaKavur Be'eretz Yisrael, Ki'ilu Kavur Tachat HaMizbeach. Whoever is buried in Israel, it's as if he's buried under the Mizbeach of the Beit HaMikdash. Eino domeh kolatato mechayim lekolatato la'achar mitah. But one who's buried in Israel is nothing compared to someone who actually lives in Israel. Amar Rabbi Elazar, metim shebachutz la'aretz einam chayim. There's an opinion in the Gemara that people that die in chutz la'aretz don't experience tchiyat hametim. Of course, other opinions say they do, but it's a different process, and there's tunnels, and they roll under the ground. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol ha'ma'alech arba amot be'eretz Yisrael muftach lo shu ben ha'olam haba. Anyone who walks 4 amot in Eretz Yisrael is promised that he has a place in the world to come. Okay, who cried all night during the sin of the spies, and what does that have to do with Aliyah? So in Bamidbar, Vatisa kol eida ve'itnu et kolam ve'yivku ha'am balayla hahu va'yilonu al Moshe va'Aaron kol bnei Yisrael ve'emru aleim kol eida lu matnu be'eretz Mitzrayim u'bamidbar hazeh lu matnu. So from here it seems certainly that the whole nation cried v'yivku ha'am kol eida. But if we look later in Sefer Bamidbar, Elet Begudei Moshe, when they did a census, ve'Elazar HaKohen asher pakdu et bnei Yisrael ba'arvot Moab al Yarden Yericho, the census before they enter Israel, ki amar Hashem lehem mot yamutu b'midbar v'lo notar mehem ish, ki im Kalev ben Yefunev Yeshua ben Nun. So on the word ish, Rashi says, uve'ele lo haya ish, אבל על הנשים לא נגזרה גזירת המרגלים, לפי שהן היו מחבבות את הארץ. The women did not suffer from the punishment of the sin of the spies, because they loved the land. האנשים אומרים, ניתנה ראש בנשובה מצרימה. The men said, let's go back to Egypt. והנשים אומרות, תנה לנו אחוזה. לכך נסמכה פרשת בנות צלפחד לכאן. So that's a reason why the parsha dealing with Bnot Slavchad and their request to inherit the land is juxtaposed with the sin of the spies, because the women were not punished. The old women entered the land of Israel with the young men who were not part of the sin of the spies, as brought by Rashi. So let's just go back 1 second. So what does that have to do with Aliyah? So many commentaries or sources hold that, well, first of all, there's 2 sins at the sin of the spies. The first sin is the meraglim, speaking dibah about the land. And the tikkun for that is generally held to be bikurim, because bikurim, we bring the produce of the land, and we praise it, and we praise the land. There's a whole statement how much we love the land. And the other sin is the people, the men that cried all night. And so many people believe that the tikkun for that is really Aliyah, or supporting Israel, moving to Israel, showing that we appreciate Israel. So My personal experience, and I've heard from many people, that oftentimes nowadays, there are men that are kind of more adventurous and really want to make Aliyah, and sometimes their spouses are naturally, the women are more cautious and concerned about the household and safety and staying close to family. And my personal thought is perhaps it's to give the men a kind of a nisui, an opportunity to do a tikkun, to show that we really want it. Does making Aliyah help bring the redemption? Of course, all mitzvot help bring the redemption. Kibbutz galuyot, the ingathering of the exiles, is certainly one of the many signs of the approaching redemption. But what's the chicken and what's the egg? Does the kibbutz galuyot bring the redemption, or does the redemption bring the kibbutz galuyot? So there are commentaries that hold that there were various times in Jewish history when redemption, the Mashiach, could have come if a leader or the people at the time had not sinned. There are many sources that talk about different kings and periods when that could have happened. But the people or the leader were not deserving. But it shows us that actions in this world have influence. It is often said that the redemption will either come at its appointed time, or it can come earlier if the people are deserving. There are sources which hold that Aliyah in fulfilling Yeshiva Aretz are prerequisites for the redemption and the arrival of Mashiach. And we see that since the original Aliyot of the old Yeshuv and modern Zionism, the situation of the Jews and of Israel has continued to improve and allow us to fulfill the national aspect of our goal of being a light unto the nations. So we definitely see this this connection between the kibbutz galuyot and the beginning of the redemption, what they call Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu, the beginning of the times of Mashiach. We're experiencing it today. Whoops, I just did a zoom somehow. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, what time is it, Mr. Fox? I don't know how many of you are familiar with Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. That's what you see in the picture. There's a pretty famous in Israel set of books called Aviyam Shel Yisrael, put out by his son and the Eliyahu family when he passed away, and they're basically full of stories, many of them miraculous, from the last 10, 20, 30 years before he passed away, of all sorts of things that he was involved in or that happened. And one of the stories deals with what's called Sha'on HaMashiach, a clock that he was gifted from the Baba Sali, who's a famous Kabbalist, a mystic. And according to the story, which was told, there are recordings of it on YouTube. You can see Rav Mordechai Eliyahu speak of it and show you himself. This clock, basically when the hand strikes 12, that's supposed to indicate that the time of the Mashiach has come. And when Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was given the clock, it was at 11:45. And years ago already, it reached 12. And at this point, the family says that it's at 12:02. So what could that possibly mean, assuming that this clock is really mystic and, connected somehow to the coming of Mashiach, that it's already past the time when he was supposed to come. So in the book, the Harav Shmuel Eliyahu, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu's son, mentions that the Baba Sali, the Kabbalist who was the previous owner of the clock, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, who were all peers and met and discussed Geulah together, that they all agreed. Amru she'egia zman ha'Geulah. They all agree that the time for Geulah is already here. Shekol ma she'anachnu tzrichim la'asot hu limchot et shariyot chet ha'meraglim she'adayin betochenu. That all that's left for us to do is to obliterate every leftover remnant of the sin of the spies, sharit shel chosr emunah, be'cholet shel Hashem lekiyem et shvuato la'avot, any doubt that we might have about Hashem's ability to fulfill his promises to our forefathers, or idea sha'anachnu chagavim, an idea that we're, these small grasshoppers that, we can't really succeed. Or any doubt that Hashem won't perform miracles for us. If we could just do that, then the Jewish people will rise up and like a lion and rule like a lion. Amen. So all three of those great rabbis expressed, the time is here, we need to do tikkun chet hameraglim. We need to fix the sin of the spies, which we already discussed, is supporting Israel and Aliyah. This is a real story. Like I said, you can see the clock. There's links. I can send out the slides, and there's links in the notes. Another thing Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu said is something else that can help bring the Geulah is to do Persume Nisa, to publicize all of Hashem's miracles, things that happen to us individually, things that happen to us as a nation. The more we speak about it and celebrate the miracles and show appreciation for the miracles, the closer that brings the Geulah. One possible reason I could think of is because that basically strengthens us. That strengthens our faith, and that can give us the strength to take the step and make Aliyah and come home. What are just some of the modern day miracles that have occurred since the Jews have returned to Israel? Kibbutz Galuyot, the ingathering of the exiles, that's the words of the prophets coming true before us, whether from Russia, from Europe, from Ethiopia, from India, and Bezrat Hashem from America too. The War of Independence was Ma'atim Mul Rabim. The 6-Day War was also Ma'atim Mul Rabim. Multiple Arab armies attacking Israel, and we won in only 6 days. It's unheard of. It's still studied probably in every military school around the world. The Yom Kippur War, even though we were surprised, v'nahafochu, we ended up winning miraculously because it was also Ma'atim Mul Rabim. It was a great success. Operation Entebbe, Operation Thunderbolt. If you're not familiar with it, there's a link about it. Unbelievable things. Operation Opera Babylon, when Israel destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1981. It was an incredible operation. If you listen to how it played out, with multiple fighter jets flying distances that they had to refuel midair, and all of the bombs needed to be timed so that one exploded after the other in the same place, because one wasn't enough to break through the outer shell. And everybody came back home safely. And almost all of the world recognizes that thanks to Israel, there were no nuclear weapons during the Persian Gulf War and the later war in Iraq. So unbelievable miracles. There's more and more and more and more. I highly recommend whoever's interested to join. There's a WhatsApp group called Nisei Hashem by Rav Harel Fadida, somebody I'm in personal contact with. He basically publicizes historical snippets on the Hebrew date when they happened in the Jewish calendar, with facts and statistics that show the miraculous nature of what happened. So we're not going to go into the details here, but he shows, if you look at the numbers here, this is during the 6-Day War. The orange color is the number of Arabs, and the gray color is the number of Jews in terms of soldiers, planes, and tanks. Enormously outnumbered. And then if you look at the casualties, it's just the opposite. The orange is still the Arabs. They had so many more injured and deaths and captives. Miraculous stuff. And Entebbe, the whole world publicized that Israel's like Superman. That we were able to pull off such an operation. And like I said, the Yom Kippur War also, the odds were against us, and it was a miraculous victory. So that covers kind of the first part of what I want to talk about. At this point, I'd love to share with you some of my own personal miracles. So basically, I made Aliyah 12 years ago, and my first time in Israel was when I was 18, freshman in college. I had never been there before, and I would love to say that my reasons for making Aliyah were all of the halachic and Torah sources that I gave previously, but the truth is that they weren't. The person that you see before you today was not the person 12 years ago or 15 years ago making those decisions. So my main motivations for making Aliyah had to do with Jewish history and recognizing that basically the Jewish experience has been that about every 200 years or so, wherever we are in the world, no matter what model citizens we are and how good things are for us, whether it's Spain or Germany or what's going on in France. And I don't want to scare anyone, but I firmly believe that it can happen in the United States too. And I'm starting to see parts of that. And I felt that when I was there. So that was part of why. Another major reason why I had to do with assimilation. I was part of the 1% of a Torah Academy graduating class that didn't go to Israel for the year. The plane arrived for the yeshivot and they said, "Where's Ezra?" And I was off to Rutgers University. I had kind of lost my interest in studying Jewish subjects. And I even rebelled for a year and was on my way off the derech and really found myself in college at a precipice where I could have easily fallen off the cliff and been erased from Jewish history forever. And so experiencing that, once I kind of got out of that, made me realize what kind of danger it is to be so absorbed within a Western culture and in a country like America that, it's great that they're so, it's the melting pot, but that has a negative aspect also. And another reason was self-interest. As a high-tech worker, I'm a computer programmer. I had great job opportunities in Israel. And also I saw that I would have opportunities for more spiritual growth. Basically what helped me evolve dafka to strengthen my Yiddishkeit was taking philosophy classes at a public university with non-Jews, Indians, Christians, Muslims, and having to defend, my upbringing, my faith, my values. That strengthened me. And once I had a strength in my emunah, then basically experiencing BDS, if you've heard of the boycott, divest, and sanction movement on college campuses, which is pretty much in every college campus in the USA right now. Thanks to Trump, it's starting to become illegal, and hopefully that'll continue. But it was a very anti-Israel political environment on campus, and I found myself getting politically active and basically making me into a more active Zionist. And then, of course, 9/11. I was in school during the attack on the Twin Towers, and that was, in my lifetime, the first big terrorist attack on American soil. And that kind of burst the bubble of safety of, terror only happens overseas and other places. It can happen anywhere, and there's been several attacks against Jewish sites and Jewish people since then. And so basically the idea that we can't just live in fear. We can get into a car accident every time we drive our car, but we still drive our car, and we can get attacked by a shark when we go to the beach, but we still go to the beach and swim in the ocean. And so same thing about living in Israel. I've been here for 12 years. Thank God I've never heard a single air raid siren. That's not to say that they haven't happened. I've also never witnessed any terrorist attack, thank God. And those things could happen, but the chances that any particular person would experience such life-threatening situations is pretty slim. And so basically, I decided not to live in fear. Once I decided to make Aliyah, thank God, I experienced enormous hashgacha. I don't know how many of you saw the story that's in the TABC newsletter. I'm not sure if it goes just to alumni, but you can ask Rabbi Jachter for a copy. But I published my story. There's a link here on the Times of Israel. But basically, when I decided I wanted to make Aliyah, I was already married, and I basically decided that I would start looking for a job in Israel. And if I find one, we would move immediately. And if I didn't, I would start my life, start working in Israel, have a few kids, and move a few years later after, saving some money. And at the time, my wife had some family friends in Israel, and I asked them, I got some advice from them about, what type of jobs I should look for. And I specifically looked in the US for a company that had offices in Israel, with the hope that one day I would be able to make a geographical relocation within the company and make Aliyah with the job. And so I started working at a communications company in New Jersey. And for a few years, I had no contact with the site in Israel. And then one day, a joint project started where the team that I was close with started working with the team in Tel Aviv. And I wasn't involved in the project. And I kept kind of hinting to my boss, maybe you can find a way that I can work with him. And nothing was happening. And finally, one Rosh Hashanah, I spilled out my heart during Shemona Esrei, and I don't know if it's the first thing I ever really asked Hashem for, like directly. I said, please, in my mind, in my heart, please give me the ability to make Aliyah with my family. And immediately, while I was davening, this has never happened again, I had a feeling almost like your wish has been granted. It was like a tremendous warmth, like an energy kind of in my spine, and a tremendous love. And 2 days later, when I come back to the office, the same boss who had never shown an interest in doing anything with me with regard to Israel invited me to his office and said, listen, part of the project, you're not on it, but they decided they want to send people from New Jersey to Israel, from Israel to New Jersey. And because of recent conflicts, it was close to the Second Lebanon War, nobody on the team that's working with the Israelis wants to go. Maybe you want to go. I said, sure. When? He said, in 2 weeks. He basically was offering me a fully paid trip 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah was Sukkot, to Israel for Sukkot, to stay at the fanciest hotel in Tel Aviv, the David Intercontinental. I brought my wife and my 9-month-old daughter. They had a great time every day visiting family. My wife was actually born in Israel, but raised in Pennsylvania. And I spent every day working, networking with the Israeli team. They gave me tremendous chizuk that I was desired, and that I would be able to find work there, and we made tremendous connections, and it seemed like it was a sure thing, that it was within reach. But when I came back, I still wasn't on that project, and it kind of went back into the old pattern of, okay, so I was there, I connected, but how do I make it happen? And eventually the project started moving fully to Israel, and I sensed that my window of opportunity was disappearing. And finally I realized I need to just kind of make a decision and put my foot down. And I went to my boss and I said, listen, I'm moving to Israel. Can I keep my job? And as soon as I made that decision of I'm moving to Israel, everything changed. My boss said, okay, let's see what we can do. Eventually it was my Iranian-American director who approved the move. And the craziest thing happened. The day I arrived, after the flight with my family, I called my office mate to see how things were going, my office mate in New Jersey. And the original plan was that I was going to work from Israel with the team in New Jersey. I would sit in Israel, but I would continue working with the New Jersey team. And when I called my office mate, he said, Ezra, you're not going to believe what happened. They laid off the whole New Jersey team. They want to close the New Jersey office, and they're going to move the project with you to Israel. And so that meant that instead of being kind of a satellite, working from Israel, I was basically the only one left in the company who was an expert on this product. And I ended up training the Israeli team on the product. And for me, it was a tremendous chizuk and a tremendous help. It was a huge career boost for me. And all my friends in New Jersey, they found other jobs. And, temporarily, probably was not great for them, but in the end, it worked out okay for them. But I could never have even dreamt of something so lucky that can happen to me. And that's just one example. We also sold our house in America in 2008, 2 months before the huge market crash. So there's just been tremendous hashgacha pratit, so much so that we've written our own additions to Dayenu. So for me, making Aliyah has been like a rebirth, experiencing so much divine providence. Hashem's love really, firsthand, is transformative. And while I'm almost 40, as an Israeli, I'm 12. And so next year will be my bar mitzvah Aliyah year. We're truly living the dream. Our quality of life has gone up exponentially, and my family has so many positive experiences. If you've heard of these only in Israel experiences, there's a whole Facebook group where people post about the tremendous chesed that being a part of Am Yisrael encourages. So that's it for my story for now. We're kind of running out of time. We got a few more slides. So in terms of reasons for Aliyah, So there are so many reasons, but let's just go through some of them. So like we spoke about in the beginning, there's the Torah. There's up your game and participate in the Geulah. There's the risk of assimilation for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, and the self-interest. I realized that if I was going to raise Zionist children like me, some of them will probably make Aliyah, and then my family is going to be split. Or if I stay in America, some might be on the East Coast, some might be on the West Coast. For me, I wanted to try to keep it together. Then there's what we call tuition birth control. I'm sure you all know how much your parents spend in order to give you guys the best Jewish education that they can. It limits the amount of children somebody feels that they can bring into the world. And in Israel, I pay a few hundred shekels a year because the Jewish education, even the religious Jewish education, is public. So that no longer becomes an issue, and you can have as many kids as you want. It is the best and ultimate show of support for Israel, and nobody should take Israel for granted. It's only existed 72 years, and we want to strengthen it and make sure it continues to strengthen, and that it'll be there for our children and our grandchildren. And it's a huge chizuk for Israelis to see Americans making Aliyah, because there's a tremendous problem with Yerida. You all know Israelis living in America. Some of you are probably even children of Israelis that moved to America. So when they meet Americans making Aliyah, it makes them think twice. Like, well, maybe there's something that they're taking for granted. And it's often been said, you can be a good Jew anywhere, but to really feel part of Am Yisrael, you have to be in Israel. Because religions don't need states, but nations do, by definition. Making Aliyah also helps you align all aspects of your being, physical, individual, spiritual, and national. So Israel doesn't need your sympathy, Israel needs you. More reasons for Aliyah. You can live the Tanakh and align your destiny with the Jewish destiny. You can be outwardly and proudly Jewish. It's so much easier and tastier to keep kosher, to join in your team, to observe the holidays. Vacation is really vacation, and people don't have to use up all their vacation days just on Chagim. In addition, it's the center of the Jewish world. Torah, culture, music, food, fashion, arts, everything is developing here. That's not to say only here, but this is the center. Is someone trying to talk?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to give one last thought, because we're pretty extended. I just want to ask Paul, why didn't I just give this whole talk? Why didn't we have to give this talk? Rabbi, you're here. Rabbi, you're here. You. Just
I'm going to send this to you guys. We didn't go through all of it, but please feel free to be in touch. Here's my contact information. If I can help anybody, any questions, be in touch. This was really a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
The best part, Ezra, the best part of this year was just you. You communicate a tremendous message to the boys. I cannot, and I got to tell you, according always to Makaros, and you cannot imagine how gushing I am, how proud I am of you. You're living everything that I told you. You know, and you teach your Torah, your Israel, your Am Yisrael, your Hashem, your everything. This is all what we're trying to get across, and you now communicate it to the next generation. It's just beautiful. Ezra, I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much. And Mazal Tov on your grandson.
Thank you. But I'm gushing with pride. I'm gushing with pride.
Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Ezra Hashem, I got to tell you, I just have so much. I probably, this was worth $1 billion. This is worth $1 billion. I got $1 billion worth of knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Tell your parents.
I'll send them a copy.
I have to send them a progress note. I have a progress report. You know.
Can you fix my gemara grades retroactively?
Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll ask Mr. P. If he'll do that for you. Okay. Excellent. Ezra, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
You will.
Unbelievable. I'm incredible. Oh, Joe's going. Yeah. Thank you, Ezra.
My pleasure.
I'm going to end the Zoom, okay?
Okay, be well.
Hashem should bless you. Hashem continue to bless.
Amen.
What a Kiddush Hashem. This is
You
an
too.
unbelievable Kiddush Hashem. Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.